If you are a card maker like me, you love dies, but we also need to budget our crafty spending, right? Hello and welcome to Karen's Creative Cards on YouTube. I am Karen Hashik and I freely admit I am a die cut addict, but I especially love dies that can be used in many different ways. If that describes you too, you'll want to check out the many cards I share in this video featuring Spellbinders Stitched for Christmas and Snow Garden by Susan Tierney-Cockburn. You can decide whether to use the dies for Christmas or not, and with or without stitching. Here's a pair of cards I made with the Stitched Christmas Sweater die set. This die set can be used for shaped cards like this one, and this die can be sewn or not. So in this case, I just made a really cute shaped sweater card. It is also cute on an embossed A2 background, and here I did stitch this snowflake. I mixed some stitched and non-stitched dies on this Christmas card with another embossed background, and both of those embossing folders are also from Spellbinders. Now of course all the details on all the cards that you see will be on my blog, and there'll be links in the description box to those blog posts as well as to the products featured. This is the die set that I used for this one, and my favorite of all the new stitched dies is the stitched Starry Argyle background. Here is a card where I partially stitched the background, and I added a cute stitched Christmas tree as well as some leaves that could have been stitched, but I chose not to, as well as this circle here could have been stitched. So again, you can make choices. You can make it as simple as you want, and these just take a few seconds to make. Here is another card with the stitched Argyle background and some new dies from Susan Tierney-Cockburn. So she is the expert on flowers, and she has several new die sets that I got. There's one that's called The Glory of Snow with these pretty flowers here, and then there is one that is the Hemlock, Cones, and Chickadee, and then there is the American Holly. So you're going to see all of these dies on some of the cards that I'm going to show you. This first one here, I stitched the whole background, and it doesn't take very long at all. The lines are right on the die, and they're long stitches, so it's very easy to create the whole background with the stitching and then put these gorgeous flowers on. Now, I'm not a flower shaper or a colorist, but I was able to make these after watching her expert videos. And of course, on the Spellbinders website, you can get links to those. What's really interesting is that she explains all about the flower or the whatever she's featuring, things that I never knew. I never knew the Glory of Snow was a flower that doesn't appear in winter, but it's the first flower that appears in spring, and it's very, very hardy. So in Wisconsin, we often get snow after it warms up a little bit. They can survive that. So this pretty card was made with both of those die sets. But here's one that is not for Christmas, and I used that background, but I didn't stitch it at all. So you can see that you can use these dies with or without stitching, and they can be Christmas or not Christmas. Here's that cute little chickadee and those pine branches and some cute little pine cones. Again, I watched Susan's video to learn how to make those. So as I showed you, you can use that background dies in many, many ways. And I am going to create a Christmas card in a very different look using these same dies as well as the American Holly die set. I'm going to start with the background. As you can see on the die, there are lines that can be followed very easily to see where to stitch. Now you can stitch all of the lines as I did on this card, or you can just choose to stitch some of them. I saw a card online by Yana, and she had done a partially stitched background. You can do it in one color or two, and for this one I'm going to do two. And what I did was, on a one that I cut out of white, I drew the lines in silver and black so I could see exactly, and you could too, where to stitch. It makes like an X background. Can you see those X's in there in the different colors? Now I started so that it didn't take quite as long on the video. I've done the white part and now I'm going to do the gold. So when you're stitching on cardstock, you don't tie a knot like you do in other stitching. I'm using gold metallic thread for the second color here. I have the DMC Diamont Gold that's available on the Spellbinders website and also on Amazon. I have some sticky pieces here ready to go. You'll either want to glue it in the back of the card or else use some type of tape. I like to use these mounting squares and just get them ready. I cut them in half because they're plenty big, and it's easier for me to do that than to try to cut a piece of tape. So I am going to start here, and so I'm just going to put my needle through the back and pull it through, and then just attach it with one of these little sticky pieces of tape, if I can get it off my finger. And again, these are just long stitches, and as long as you can see the pattern, I'm going to go to the center of this one. And the most important thing about sewing, I guess, on anything is just to hold the thread taut, but not real tight. If you pull it too tight, it will, of course, bend the cardstock. But if it's too loose, it won't look good either, okay? So now, if you follow the pattern here, I'm going to go up over here, and pull it, and then go down to this line here. So as you can see, like I said, they're long stitches. It's not like doing a really complicated background that has a lot of stitches. Oh, those are very pretty, and they can be relaxing to do. I don't have the patience, so when I chose the Spellbinders dies, I always choose the ones that aren't quite that complicated, but add a really nice touch, as you can see. So now we're just going to go down to the bottom. Whoops, that doesn't look right. Now Okay, let's look at my pattern here. I want to go to this one here, I think. And then okay, and then we'll finish that up and be right back. Okay, my stitching is done. My problem with stitching in a video is I really need to take my glasses off and get my head right real close to it to be able to see for sure where to put the needle. And of course that's hard to do when I'm trying to show it to you. But again, that was very, very simple, and basically it's just following a pattern, and I just saw a card online that I really liked to make a very quick, easy, but gorgeous stitched background, and that's ready to go. I'm going to put the Chickadee from Susan Tierney-Cockburn's set and some American Holly and Hemlock onto my card. In Susan's video, she's the master at creating realistic flowers and images, and I highly recommend watching her video where she shares many tips and, you know, also a lot of information. And she uses like Copic markers, and she's just really, really good at coloring, but I am not a colorist. I'll be the first one to admit it. So I'm just going to use some ink blending to make a little chickadee. And I started with the black. You know, the head part is black, and there's a little bit of black around her throat, and then her wing and tail is gray. So I'm just going to use ink to add that, and we're going to leave the belly and parts of the neck area white. So if you're like me, and I don't even own a lot of markers, I'm just not very good at it, and that's okay with me, but I still can make cards, of course. So I'm just going to add some gray ink with a small blending brush here. So we have the gray and the black, and you can pretty much tell that that's a chickadee. And then I'm going to give her a little pearl eye, and she is ready to go. Now in Susan's video on the American Holly, she showed how to shape them just a bit by emphasizing that scored line and doing a little bit of folding. And again, she's the expert, but I've done some of that. Now, to make it look like real holly, she suggested you could use like a crystal glaze. I have one here from Nuvo to do that. It never would have occurred to me, but it is true that when you look at American Holly, the leaves do look, they have like shiny. They're shiny. So I am going to just take some Nuvo crystal glaze and add it to the holly. Oh, sure. I used this brush yesterday and I thought I got it clean enough. I'm not sure that I did, but we can just add some of that crystal glaze on the leaves. And they will dry shiny because of that. She also showed how to make the berries, and she had these little balls that she did, but she did say you could take something like a Nuvo glitter accents, and of course the glaze and the accents do take a while to dry. So I've done my berries in advance, and I also have some leaves ready to go with that crystal glaze on there. So those are ready to make a card with. So we're going to start with this background and put the elements. That's the hemlock, and then I have 2 of the American holly ready to go, and I pictured it. Probably have to go over it a little bit with that. So we'll start with the holly. And then, whoops, that wasn't set. Do have to be patient when we glue things down, don't we? And then I will add the pine, hemlock, now I think I'm going to add some of the berries to the area that they intersect to kind of cover that up. I was thinking about cutting these berries apart. I usually have smaller bunches of berries, but then Susan really knows her different species, and when I looked at pictures, sure enough, there was a whole bunch of berries always together in the American holly. So I used her shape in the die set and just kept them together. And then we're going to add the chickadee. Trying to get her under the branch a little bit. So the holly and the colors I've chosen creates a lovely holiday card with the same products as the other non-holiday card. I had so much fun creating Christmas and non-holiday cards, as well as some with sewing and some without, and stretching the use of these beautiful Spellbinders dies. I hope my cards encourage you to give some of the ideas and products a try.